Hope you're having a great day. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about creating space in your life and noticing where you're wrapping yourself up a little too tightly. Whether it's in your body, it's within your schedule day to day, or in your relationships, the way that you converse with people, the way that you work with people, or your space, like your home space around you. And in particular, I wanted to kind of touch on the concept and idea of welcoming in a space for stillness, B, a sense of wonder, and C, an allowance of the spontaneity and unpredictable for like the unknown, right? So we're looking at creating that silence and space, eventually, to be able to get to a place that you can welcome in spontaneity and the unknown. But in order to do that, you have to be open, I think. You have to be open to a sense of wonder. And wonder means being able to see things in a way that's like not pre-boxing it into some preconceived notion of what it should be. Right? One of my mentors, Michael Stone, he's fantastic, life-changing work for sure. He speaks a lot on creating your narrative, which is a lot of the work that I love to do with clients, to work through. And when we invite that sense of wonder, like it's like that childlike wonder, that allows us to see things for what they really are, versus saying, oh, that's the color purple, like this is my association with purple, for example, or oh, there goes another snake just like slithering by, which just happened, which I'm not actually one of those like, oh, there's another snake, I'm like, oh my god, it's a snake, what does it mean? But anyway, so just within your relationships, like who is this person in front of you, how do you dialogue with them, what does your home space look like, how do you interact with that space? Do you invite time for quiet, or do you fill your day with constant interaction, music, and conversation and connections? And it's not to say that's bad, it's just I want to go into that concept of what if you just like open up a little space, like, can you see it? Whoop. That's your space for nothingness, right in between there. And allowing yourself to just like exist in that and see what happens, what can come up by being open to that space. And it doesn't mean it has to be silent, right? I'm not asking you to be some like expert yogi, meditating kind of guru. I'm just asking for you to just sit and watch, some green space, or turn off the music and be in silence, hear the cicadas, listen to the birds, whatever you have, or listen to the silence of winter, wherever you are, whatever's going on, just like being present without something electronic or some person. And just let your mind go, let your body go. So I wanted to give you some practical ways to sort of incorporate these aspects into your life, these ways of bringing in space into your life as a practice, because I think sometimes we need to practice very little steps and little things in our life in order to, A, be able to recognize what's going on, and B, create new patterns on a small scale so that we can open up on a larger scale, right? So, being that we're a part of like this greater intelligence or whatever is going on right now, right? I think it's important that we trust a little bit, that we don't actually need to control everything. And that sometimes if there's a change in your schedule, it's actually awesome, and like what comes from that, what comes from the unexpected, right? Because when you're unexpected, you're sort of like shaken up a little bit. Do you tense up around that and you're like, no, that can't happen, this isn't good, I can't reschedule that? Or do you like soften up around it and you're like, okay, this is what's happening, like what's next, right? So I wanted to share, so based around your schedule, before I go into that, how can you respond more gracefully to that? How can you like see it as a dance with time and space and the universe, when something changes in your schedule where you might like bristle up against it at first, like just surrendering to it and going, huh, okay. You know, and being in that and seeing what happens. That's a tiny exercise. Maybe something like megalithic is not going to happen, right? It's just, it's practice. We're not looking for like our life to change overnight necessarily, because most of us would just like leave our bodies and, you know, too much too fast. So, the next space I want to go into is our houses, our homes, our offices, whatever you have. How do you function in that? How do you treat that space? What is the space like between you and that space? Do you have a dining room that is like, has a formal table and is completely unused except for like 3 times a year because you prefer to eat more casually, or you're more of like a snacker appetizer type person than formal meals every day? Because if you have that huge dining room table and you're actually more of a tapas type person, you would be better off with like, you know, something that functions in that way. And I bring that up because I absolutely adore interior design. I did interior design school for a short period when I was younger. And my whole life growing up, my mother would always let me paint the house whatever color I wanted, decorate it, da-da-da. And through the years, my friends and family have invited me into their house to like redo things because they like the way I create space. I love creating sacred space, and it's just really fun, and it's like nourishing for all, right? So how can you look at your space and transform it, you know? So when I was younger and working with my mom, I thought, okay, let's look at your personality type, let's see how you actually function in your space, and let's figure this out. And that example of the dining room table was spot on. I mean, she's a chef, loves cooking, but kind of stopped her formal holidays. And if she needed a formal holiday, she could always get like a folding table and make it stunning, you know? You don't need to have, if you need like actually a cafe table and a couch so you can read and enjoy your coffee in a way that's like authentic to you, by all means do that, right? Another one that's a little quirky is I have a rebounder and a trampoline, and I have just kind of like stuck it behind a door, stuck it under a bed, covered it in cat hair, just wherever I could fit it. And actually earlier this week I thought, okay, I'm like really want to jump on this. I don't want it to be outside because I don't want it to get ruined. But what can I do? And so I like pulled it out of my bed, put it at the end of my bed, and was like jumping on it, and it was really fun. And I thought, well shit, I'm going to keep this thing right here. I'm going to keep this right at the edge of my bed so I can jump on this when I get out of bed, or jump on it before I go to bed, or like in the middle of the day I can come in here and jump on it, because that's where it feels good. And yeah, is it sort of in a place where like I may wake up and like trip on it? Maybe. But so far I haven't. And I think it would be okay. So that's another example, is like giving yourself that freedom to, you know, it doesn't look like fucking Martha Stewart. My bedroom's beautiful. And I'm usually somebody who's like, it's just right. But now I'm like, it's just right. There just happens to be a rebounder in the middle of the floor. It's cool, you know? And that is such a great reminder, for example, of inviting in spontaneity and just getting on that thing when I want to. So what are ways in your house, in your home, that you can shake things up a little bit? Even a living room, like does your living room actually need the cafe table and the dining room needs the couch? You know? You can do that. It's totally okay. There's no rule. It's your house, right? It's your house. It's your life. There's no rule. You can do it. You can do whatever you want, right? And ideally, I'm speaking to an audience of people who are like kind-hearted and not psychopathic, and I say this a lot, you know, when I say do whatever you want, like having morals. But, you know, you get the point, right? So the final piece I want to go into is conversation, and being able to create space in conversation, and even within how we relate to people. So I recently made a video about relating to people in a sense where you're not like trying to control it, the conversation, or the actions of the other person. And the example I give is when we're kind to people. Because often when we're super kind to people, in a lot of situations, like people do it because they think it's the right thing to do. They're not doing it because they want to do it, right? So checking with authenticity on that. Maybe watch that video to like get to that point. But like, are you being nice to somebody because you want them to like you, or you want them to do what you want them to do? Even if like that's not your motive at the top of your head. It's just checking in, right? So right there, in a conversation, if you might automatically respond in a certain way or do a certain thing. Like, okay, is that really what I mean? Is that authentic to what I'm trying to like, how I'm trying to like interact with the world? Or am I doing this for that person in order for them to act a certain way or blah, 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 right? Sometimes that takes taking a breath and creating that space, which some people feel super awkward in space. Like they feel like you're having a staring contest with them, right? But I think that if the more of us that sort of drop in and allow that sense of space and quietness in dialogue with people, the more acceptable it's going to be. Because how many conversations have you had with people where they actually think and stop before they say what they're going to say? And I know for myself, I just feel like the energy change. And I'm like, okay, like this person's super present. They're really thinking about what they want to say, and what they're going to say is like comes more powerfully, right, in a sense. And as opposed to being kind of like which I love conversation like that. Like I just where I grew up in my family, that's just kind of that excitement conversation where you just hitting it off and you're like, right? And that's awesome. I really love that. But I also love the idea of just being like, okay, dropping in. And that's actually something that I've been working on for the past couple months. In work, it's easy to make space because I'm clearly there for that person in front of me, right? When we're at work or we're a parent, or, you know, I imagine I'm not a parent, so it's not a good example for me to give, but in a relationship where you are there for the other person, it's easy to create that space. But what about the relationships where you're there for each other? How can you create that space when you're there for each other, you know? And I think that it takes like being comfortable with like taking a breath before you say what you're going to say. And you don't have to be super dramatic, like that was really dramatic. I'm not like, hold on, okay, this is what I think. That's not what I do. It's just kind of like, so actually I find myself holding my breath probably because I'm like, okay, don't say anything, you know, at first when practicing it. But how can you do that? How can you create space in a conversation? And even in changes in relationships and dynamics with people, you know, sometimes that space in between is such an unknown, right? And like I had a dream the other day that this was like a month or so ago where I had in the dream I woke up in my dream, checked my email in my dream, and I had received an email that was sent like maybe the minute that I woke up, and the link was to a song that was a video, and the video had two people in it, older man, younger man, kind of dark, I couldn't really see it, and there were like two different songs playing, and I couldn't grab it. I couldn't get the song. I couldn't get it. Like the whole thing was just like, what? I don't get it. And so I called the person in the dream and I said, hey, like, thanks for the video, I don't get it. And they said, well, that's the point. And I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome, okay. Interesting. So I don't think I said that's kind of awesome in the dream. I was like, oh, okay. But then I woke up and I just like loved that whole interaction where it's like, that's the point. It's the unknown, it's the wonder, it's the space in between, it's the not knowing, you know, in life. It's like having a day of the week where you don't have anything scheduled, or a couple hours during the week where you don't have anything scheduled, and you just get to do whatever you want because you don't know what's going to happen. And I think the more you do that, the more opportunities and things come your way that you would never expect, because you've like created this space. It's like when you open up space in your body, the energy can flow. When you open up space in a conversation, the energy can flow. When you open up the space in your house to suit who you are and like really interact with it authentically, like really as who you are, the whole space changes. It's like so much more sacred than if you just like had your formal dining room with like your nice silverware and the china from your wedding or whatever, right? Break that shit if you want to. If you don't use it, get rid of it. You know, you don't need to be a part of anybody else's mold, in that sense is my point. Or love it and covet it and like use it. If you love your beautiful dishes, I have some dishes that I just love, and I just love like making my guacamole because I'm like, I got this really awesome octopus dish and I put my guacamole and my crackers, and it makes me so happy, you know, to have that. Yeah, so like if it seems completely inappropriate to like take out your china because you're only feeding yourself, question that a little bit. You deserve to eat on your china anytime you want to, right? And you deserve to break it if you want to. So, yeah, that's that. Those are some little ways I think that you can sort of drop in to your schedule, drop into your body, drop into your relationships, drop into your house, your home, your office, and make these little tweaks to like be authentic for who you are and create more space for freedom and wonder and curiosity. All this good stuff comes in because you like allow your little quiet winter to happen, and then like spring and summer comes up out of it that you don't even know what it's gonna look like. You have no idea. Like the minute you stop assuming that you know what your path is the minute so much magic can happen. Because like you just the world will blow your mind sometimes if you let it. So, okay, that's it for today. I hope this was super helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I want to know what you're gonna do, like, or what have you done? What are little ways you're shaking it up? And yeah, I'd really love to know. Even in a response video, comments, whatever works for you. Email, do it.